I've come to a suburban cul-de-sac. You can hear a dog barking there because we have arrived at number 530, and I'm with Jason, who is an electrician. And Jason, what's brought you here?
So what we're doing today is we're going to do an underground splice on this lamppost. The dog actually dug it up and bit through the wire.
Justin got the mic, he recorded his stand-up at the scene and said, we've come to this house, we've come to meet Jason and he's working on something, and then he sort of asked Jason to start his job sealing up a cable, and then asked Jason to explain what he was doing. As he was recording the stand-up, there was a dog barking from inside the house, so Justin kind of ad-libbed a reference to the dog, and then went back to the house and recorded a bit of dog, because I felt that I didn't have enough dog already. You just hear a few little yaps in the background, and a lot of the time I think you really need to go out of your way. If you're going to have a sound effect, you need as much of it as possible when you do the final mix.
So that's an interesting little point that Terry O'Neill, the producer, makes, I think, in that little clip. He's talking about going back and getting some extra sound to put in over the bit of the package that he's recording at the moment, the dog barking. Now, some of you might think that's cheating. I don't think it is, for this reason. He didn't falsify anything. The dog was there. The dog was barking. All he did was go back and get a little bit extra in order to make his package a bit richer at the very beginning.
So we've got the splice kit put on there. Right now we're going to do a heat shrink on there to keep the water from getting in there. And it should keep the line good for at least another 30 years.
Tell me about how business is going.
It's booming. We went from 2 employees about 2 years ago. Now we're up to 6. Hoping over the next 18 months we're going to be at 18 employees.
You're going from 2 to 18?
Yes, the influx of work is amazing. We were seeing people that were skipping safety items because they didn't want to spend the money, but now we see a lot more of luxury items. A lot of hot tubs going in. We do a lot of swimming pools now. I think the economic stability is what's really helping it. People just know that, we're out of the recession. If they lose their job, they can find another job.
Some of that interview, I thought, are we getting a bit too specific? Are we getting a bit too in the weeds? There's a bit at the end where he talks about having enough money to buy a fourth vehicle for his business. And I wondered, does that slow down the package a little bit? Is it too much information on his business? But actually, I just thought that as much specific detail about his, how his business was expanding was a better illustration of the point we were trying to get at, that times are much better for blue-collar workers than if he just made some kind of bland pronouncements about how, business is great, we're loving it, we've got more money than we had before.
Now there's an interesting choice that you need to make when you're a producer. Too much detail or not enough. So what Terry's done there, he's thought about it and he's thought, well, I can, as he said, make these sort of bland pronouncements about the industry, but he decided to actually go into the detail of the hot tubs. And I think that he was right to do that, because I think it's that kind of detail that brings a subject to life, that underlines the fact that he's talking to a real person who does a real job. And it's a real story.
Donald Trump's America is an America on the move, on the make. It's a blue-collar America, out all day, as they are in front of me here, flattening some land ready for building on the outskirts of Pittsburgh. On building sites like this, they are bringing home money at the end of the day. It's an America that feels as if it's working again. What
I was hoping for, which didn't quite come out when I listened back to the audio, was that there would be something, a sound of clanging or the sound of one of the diggers reversing that I could use, and I think that does come out a little bit in the final package. What I was trying to avoid was just having a huge blast of noise that the listener would take a while to attune to and might find a bit difficult to work out. Whereas what you really want is something that, like a car horn beeping, I suppose, or a bus door opening on to identify a kind of street scene. You want a kind of distinctive, punchy sound that's going to tell listeners straight away what they're listening to.
Sound, sound, sound. Do you see how careful the producer there is about getting the right sounds? You have to be very, very clear, I think, about what scene you're trying to convey through sound. As Terry said there, what you don't want to do is baffle the listener. The listener needs to know, I think, straight away where they are. So in this case, it's the construction site, and you sort of know you are because there's some very obvious sounds going on. And the second thing I wanted to emphasize at this point was the use of Atmos there. So just notice how he dipped the sound. So it was still going on underneath the interview that they did, but what that does, it basically places the interview, it places the reporter and the interviewees where they're talking, in this case a construction site, but also it allows you to smooth out your edits. So we've talked about that in Audition so far. How do you make our edits nice and smooth so you're not discombobulating your listener?
I'm Sean.
I'm Jason.
Business is booming. Everyone's building around here. It's just like expanding.
It's just non-stop, just keeps on going.
I always get them to what we call self-ident, to give their name and their job title or whatever else is relevant to why you're interviewing them. It just gives you an option as a way of introducing them. If you did like a 5-minute package that was just link, here's so-and-so and he does this, it would just become a bit monotonous and repetitive. So it's nice to be able to have the self-identification as a way of mixing it up.
I'm a big fan of self-IDing in packages. It really does, as Terry says, help you get around that sort of clunky so-and-so said such and this was his response. Much better to get the interviewee or the person that's in the package to actually identify themselves. It saves time, and also they're speaking directly to the listener. So again, it just feels more natural.
And for people, obviously, you've got a parts business for autos here. It really matters that people have got money in their pockets.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
Is it the Trump economy?
I can't exactly answer that one, but it seems like it has started growing since he's been in office.
Right.
Yeah, I would agree with him. The same thing. I mean, ever since he came in office, it's like booming up here. I mean, it's just like unreal. And then like the businesses, there's like auto parts opening up all over. I mean, we're not the only one. They're building a new one right next door to us. There's one right down the block, another one right down the other block.
So whatever you think of Trump,
yeah,
that side of his time in office has been good.
Yes, definitely.
Republicans are seizing on this mood. Pennsylvania voted for Trump, and if they have their way, his congressional candidates will benefit from the Trump boom. Candidates like Congressman Mike Kelly.
You're always aiming to do a package that doesn't have any sections where you're just hearing a presenter link that's been recorded in a studio and there's no background sound to it at all. We recorded all our links with street sound in America, and we recorded them back in the studio to give me the option that I would either have some wild track to mix under the link recorded in the studio, or we'd have something recorded in the street over there. So you would always have some sound. It would sound lively, and it just sounds a bit dead if it's just a studio link.
So there's another word to learn, wild track. Essentially it means the same as Atmos. It's basically sound underneath the reporter's voice, which helps to place the reporter in a particular location. The other thing that I'm quite keen to emphasize here is how careful they are about the sounds. So they recorded their links, which is the bits between the various speakers. They recorded their links two ways, one out in the street, so they have the background noise, and the other in the studio. I think it's really important to be careful about what you're producing, because at the end of the day, your listener's definitely going to pick up on any flaws.
What is it that wins this race for you?
The results of what we've done in these first 21 months under the Trump administration. Our economy is just off the charts right now. It's never been better in the history of the country. So if we hold it, it'll be people looking at what's going on in the economy, understanding how good we've become. Just the positive things are out there. Now, some people will get diverted with personal issues of, I don't like the way the president tweets. I said, how do you like his performance? Oh, his performance is great. I just don't like him tweeting. I said, well, you know what? I'll take the performance.
People will take the performance, not the tweet.
Well, this is the lowest unemployment in almost 30 years. So this is a guy that knows how to run a business. This is a guy that knows how to succeed, and we're seeing that happen every day. Every day we're seeing success.
The actions we took during the crisis turned the economy around, started the longest streak of job creation on record.
Almost every speech made by a major politician in America is uploaded onto YouTube, it seems, or other broadcast channels, often with varying quality. Some of them have got really tinny internet sound, so you've got to really shop around before you can find something that's really broadcastable. So the Obama speech was in Pennsylvania just a couple of weeks, I think, before we got there. I did actually download it onto my laptop when I was in America, but when I got back to the UK, the sound quality was just too tinny. I couldn't use it, so I had to find another source for it.
So again, the care that Terry took to get just the right sound for his package. So please don't be tempted to cut corners to just finish with something because it'll do. At the end of the day, it really is worth working hard and getting the best sound quality you can. Believe me, your listeners will appreciate it.
So when you hear right now, folks taking credit for this economic miracle, it's like, hold up.
A familiar voice, also in Pennsylvania in recent days, arguing that the Trump economic claims are simply false. And most experts would accept that the fizzing local economy is not just down to this president. People here aren't stupid. Donald Trump doesn't fool them with his overblown claims, but at the same time they genuinely feel something stirring, as we heard from Jim Paff, who runs a local welding company.
If you can maintain the environment that we can work in and continue to work without encumbrance, then yeah, this whole Make America Great is going to be, it'll happen.
But he says what he's doing is exactly that, getting rid of regulations, reducing taxes. Are you feeling that?
For me, it's a little early in the game. We've had tax relief. That remains to be seen whether or not how big of an effect that has.
You're paying less tax now under Donald Trump than you were before.
Supposedly. I'll let you know at the end of the year.
Takes a minute for it to heat up, but as soon as it gets to a good temperature, it'll start to shrink pretty fast.
Back in the suburbs of Pittsburgh, Jason the electrician is about to go to his next job and is looking forward to what he believes is a Trump-generated brighter future.
It always feels neater if you come back to your original interviewee, especially if you've done quite a lot with them at the start and you've got a good bit of sound. It's just a nice sort of way of doing it to come back to the beginning, and just found the bit where they sign off the job from going through the audio, and I just thought that was a neat way to end the package.
So I like the way that he ended that package. It's what's called bookending. So you have, as he explained there, you start off in a location, you go and do stuff, you go and talk to different people in other locations, and then you come back to the same location at the end. It makes the package feel sort of more complete, if you like. So that's a cute trick to learn. Now, one tip from me, which I always use when I was making my packages, is think of your beginning. Think of your end. And once you've got those fixed in your mind, just fill in the gap between the two. And we'll talk more about that in our next workshop.